on, everyone? We are here tonight to talk about the season series finale, episode 5 of The Idol, titled Jocelyn Forever. As you all can see on the screen, I'm not alone. I got my crew with me. I got my family here with me. Shout out to that Tough Love song. I got my man Nine, who's been joining me the last few weeks. Chris, who's been on the channel a bazillion times, and I'm always grateful to see him on. Gentlemen, we are here to talk about the finale. And just before we break it all down, again, Chris, I want to start with you. Initial impressions when you press play to when you got done watching it. Did you say to yourself, you know what? That was a pretty good finale. Or did you say, you know what? Is there another 4 or 5 episodes to really wrap this up? How'd you feel about, just generally speaking, Chris, about this finale?
I thought that the finale was maybe better than I thought it would be, but there are a million things unanswered, which that will never be answered. So there's always going to be room for more. I don't want 5 more episodes. I don't think I want 5 more.
I don't think
episodes.
It had another 5 episodes to be honest with you.
But just seeing Jocelyn boss up, seeing the Weeknd groveling, I like that. I like that a lot. And the looks too. Like, she was serving also. I'm not no woman fashion expert, but she's just serving every shot. She looks like a pop star, like more than most current pop stars actually look.
Yeah. I think her mom, and if I'm not mistaken, is an actual supermodel, or was in her heyday, and of course her dad is a
too, but
icon. She definitely has the look and the talent.
Yep.
Nine, what say you? Finale, did it work? Did it not work?
I mean, I was very impressed with it, especially with all of the things floating around, with the episode getting cut short. The internet bullied HBO to cut out an episode. Because, I was thinking, how does that work then? How do you get rid of an episode?
How does that work?
If it's the finale. So maybe they did some strange editing. I have a feeling it may have been around like the time skip, the 6 week jump.
That is
that may be where we this was cut down. They did a fantastic job, and they probably should have done that for the rest of the season too, and cut out a lot of the slack.
Episode 1 and 2,
make it like really tight or something. But I think this was almost just getting interesting for me.
Well said, gentlemen. I think I'm in the middle. I'm not as happy with the episode as you two might have seemed so far, but I'm also not hating on the episode. To Nine's last point, I almost saw the edit on when it was like this was the end of episode 5 and this was the beginning or maybe the middle of episode 6. And like Nine said, when we get that 6 week jump, it's like, what has happened? Tedros IRS. We got singles out there. The tour started. It's like there's a lot that just happened in the last 10 minutes that I felt like was definitely cut to kind of making an episode. And if I'm not mistaken, there's been so many rumors out there that there was a 6th episode, but then Sam Levinson, when he came on, kind of just combined the episodes into one because it was just a mess to get everything wrangled together from the behind the scenes issues. So not a terrible finale, but I still feel as though it wasn't as good as episode 3 and 4 for me personally. Let us know in the comments before we break it all down. How do you all generally feel about this finale? Look, man, she's not just looking at us, talking and singing to the audience, but she's looking at Tedros as he's sitting there watching upset. He's drinking his sorrows around. Last week we saw him get played like a Nintendo with her hooking back up with Rob. And I'm not gonna lie, Nine. This song here, as the show has went on, because I think if you remember, Nine, I wasn't a fan of like the first few singing notes or the first few songs of the show, but as we went along, the song got a little bit better. I don't know if it was purposeful, as she was finding her voice again, but this was a fire song. I'm not a musical expert, but I thought that Tough Love, One of Your Girls song was like super fire, and I thought Jocelyn did a good job performing that musical note. But just generally speaking, now, how'd you feel about this opening scene as we see him kind of making demands, Tedros demanding this, that, and the third, and Jocelyn just flat out tells him, I'm done with you, bro, and you served your purpose, be gone. How'd you feel about all that opening stuff, man?
I was surprised he was still in the house. But first, let me say that I love Mike Dean's performance, and just like how he felt like he was part of the audience watching the show, and just kind of like making fun of the whole situation. I was saying Tedros is a vampire. I was like,
bro, I thought of you when they literally said the line in this episode.
Mike Dean was like, he's a vampire. I was
they've been watching 9.
There it is. there it is.
Chris, man, same question for you. This opening scene, but in particularly, Chris, I know you mentioned Tedros a little bit earlier how you felt about him, just terrible character, terrible individual. I'm just curious, Chris. I'm sure I know the answer, but you might shock me. Did you feel bad? Did you feel any sympathy for Tedros as he's kind of essentially the players getting played, if you want to call it that? Did you feel bad for him at all? As she's just like, I don't need you no more. You served your purpose. Go in the corner and cry.
Never, not even a little bit. Never.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. No, I thought he was terrible. I thought he deserved all that, and then even more, because then at the end he's still getting shine because she put him on stage. So why would I even feel bad at that in the last place? Because it really could have got away. Maybe some of the fans would, like, if security didn't let him in, they really wasn't joking with him. Then I would be like, okay, some people might find some remorse there. I still wouldn't, but you could make that argument. But no, I thought he was terrible the whole time watching this show, because I know I haven't been on the lives with you, but the whole time I watched the show, it's like, this dude is terrible, but Jocelyn is not like a dumb blonde. Like, I was like, why would she be falling for this? I'm like, I kept saying that every week. I was like, there's no way, because it's like, we know the type, like a younger, maybe more impressionable star in Hollywood might fall
brand new to Hollywood. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, nah, there's no way. Like, and her team know better. Like, I was like, this is no way. Like, there's no way that she's falling for this. But I mean, I guess it made sense in the end. But yeah, zero remorse. Look at this dude. Looks ridiculous.
The rat tail sweated out. Smelling like a bottom of a trash can. He's depressed, Nine. And I guess to pose a question to you, Nine, do you feel like the show at any point wanted us to feel remorse or feel bad for Tedros, or was the intention to always hate him? Because the show kind of pivoted into a sense that they want you to feel bad for him. Like, Jocelyn's been the one that's been evil this whole time. I'm kind of confused on how you felt about how the show handled that.
Anything, they just wanted us to show that Jocelyn has her faults too. I don't know if they were really pointing it to a level like we should feel bad for him, because he doesn't really get the backstory that all of the other cult members get, with like Chloe being like a heroin addict, or like Isaac being like a strong part of the church, and like I think maybe possibly getting kicked out of his family or something like that. I never felt like they were
devils.
Shout out Wanda.
Yeah, maybe that's what they cut out of this other episode. I wish we would have got a full episode of just him just going through the downfall, and it's just him stressing out the whole time. That 6 weeks, that would have been great. Maybe I would have felt bad for him then. Who knows?
And I totally agree with you that there seemed to be more on the table for Tedros to make you, I don't know, make the audience somewhat sympathize. I don't know how you sympathize with someone that we find out he was a woman beater last week. He was in jail for 6 years for kidnapping. It's like, I don't think there's any room for like sympathy.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know if that would have helped if we would have spent more time with him. And I don't know if, being for real, I don't know if I want to see a whole episode of The Weeknd acting, just to be honest. But it's really weird how, I don't know what the show was trying to make us think of him. But when she's telling Mike the story of how they met and recalling it all, I thought it was funny. She calls him out of how he was obsessed with her and this, that, and the third. And he's just kind of, he feels embarrassed about the whole scenario at hand. But like you said, Chris, I loved all that stuff, that putting the pie in his face and just being like, you thought you fooled me. You didn't mess with the wrong one. You didn't match your match. Chris, any more thoughts on Tedros getting embarrassed?
10 out of 10. Would recommend. Need to see it again, and she ain't leave off the gas.
See, the thing is that he did, because I thought that was the twist, was going to be that, like, oh, she knew about all of that
from the very beginning,
right? Like from the get. And I'm like, how did you not know about that from the get? Like, that almost seemed like pretty obvious from the outside looking in, but it seemed like she kind of should have been aware from just like looking up his history and just knowing like how he knows everybody. It's like, that's literally his MO for every single other one of these people that he's got around with him.
Yeah, that's why I feel like the twist wasn't so twisty. It was like, okay, all right. Like, it could have been twistier, like if they set it up different or made her pretend to be like, or show us that she was a little ditzier or dumber. But they're showing us like how capable she is and how she is like kind of like a boss of her brand. So I'm like, this girl would not fall for this.
Because it's always been a suspicion, like you mentioned earlier, Chris. There's no way that she's been in the industry since she was probably I think she said 10 years she's been in the industry. You learn a lot, no matter how head in the sand your mom or dad is controlling all your money. You still recognize what's going on. So of course she can recognize certain things. So I've always had that feeling that she was just playing kind of dumb to her advantage. But I think the show could have done a little bit better job of making that reveal just a little bit more impactful, that she didn't know. And to your point, Chris, and I think we talked about it 9, if the show would have presented her being fresh to the industry, being a new artist, and all this is coming at her at once, she can't tell who's on her side, who's against her, that would have been a nice moment to kind of, she has been paying attention. But again, the writing was on the wall since episode 1. I think of the very first scene, Jocelyn at her photo shoot, laugh, smile, cry, that whole emotionally, unstable person. She can do that on a drop of a dime. Kind of played their hand a little bit early that she is a manipulator in a sense. She can manipulate her emotions at any point. And again, like Chris mentioned, she is full on boss mode. She comes in there and Leia's like, how did everything go? And she lets them know they love the song. So again, I don't know if I'm going to ever revisit the show. Probably not. But just looking at the confidence level from Jocelyn of episode 1, her not being confident in herself, doing the dance routine, her being on the video shoot, not being able to hit the mark, to now seeing her demanding people's attention, walking through the office, like, I'll run this. I'm your number one artist. I got to go back to Chris's comments that, yes, Lily played it off as far as like being a boss bitch. She really showed that in that scene. Any thoughts on that, Chris or not?
To the point, and where if we would have seen her like this and kind of like more on a mission, because we know that she's on her comeback tour and she's dealing with the loss of her mom, right? And that would have been a pretty interesting battle, right?
Yeah.
And if she was actually like then figured out like what Tedros was doing to her, that would have been a lot more intriguing, and it would have shown a lot more agency on her part, where at this it's kind of just like problematic. Like, you needed to get pimped out to become yourself or something. Like, I don't know what the messaging is really. It's weird.
It is weird, and definitely get your thoughts on this, Chris. Do you think what Don just said, does it play into the whole idea? And we'll talk about if even the mom being as abusive as Jocelyn made out to be, if that was even true. But do you think that toxic nature came from her mom, and like she attaches herself to people that she know probably aren't the best for her, but they pull the best out of her? Like, what do you think about Jocelyn, kind of her manipulating people to get what she wants out of them, even though if it means it, messes her up as an individual?
Yeah, I think the abuse was real, because I think that Xander would have reacted differently to that whole reveal. So I think that's supposed to be a real thing. But yeah, of course, she attaches to people that might not be the best for her. But I just still I'm still curious why she would include him in the end at the show, because it's like, yeah, if the show just said, oh, you just used this dude for his people that he has around, like these young artists, you got them, you made the tour hot, and then dumped them, then I'd be like, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
But then to just say, I'm going to introduce the world to the love of my life, it's just like, so it just it ain't make sense.
It didn't add up. Again, Chris, I'm gonna start with you, because again, I'm totally with you on dragging Tedros as much as possible. This is yet again another example of Jocelyn showing her true colors when she finds out that Andrew's going to come in and talk about his concerns with the tour. She goes down there and wakes up all the sleeping babies, waking them up, and she tells Chloe, Ramsey, and Isaac, you guys are going to be on the tour, opening the tour. And Tedros is like, no, you're not. And she's telling him to shut up, and it's just constantly putting them down, shutting them up. I guess for me, Chris, the reason I'm shocked by this behavior is because every time we would see someone almost talk against Tedros, they would like get in line and be like so scared and afraid, but no one said anything. They were just like, yeah, Jocelyn, we're listening to you now. Was that switch up in their demeanor and not being as scared as him as they were acting a couple episodes ago? Did it catch you off guard? They're no longer afraid of Tedros, and they're now following the new cult leader in Jocelyn?
But I thought it was kind of crazy when we were learning about like the whole like Tedros doesn't allow us to say no thing, right? So then Josh is like, okay, Isaac, then kiss me then. And then he's like, well, no, he would kill me. So then like, what, like, where was that line? So it's like, yes, to your point, to your question was like, yeah, of course, like it switched up, because before they're saying yes to everything except certain things. So it's not everything. And then now today it's like, Yeah, like no one's listening to you. I guess like because like now it's like Mean Girls where like she just became the queen bee.
Right.
Now,
your thoughts on it? Like I said, I feel like that whole build up to him being this big bad vampire kind of went away very quickly. Like there's no consequences to their actions. He's not tasing Isaac in the balls with the taser like he was a couple weeks ago. Like, am I missing something now?
Well,
Like did
Isaac
they
was
lose?
busy stretching. And,
yeah, he did the yoga. It was just a yoga move. Yeah.
He was doing yoga. But yeah, I take this as like almost it's like a hostile takeover, right? They just the strength is in the numbers, and if you don't got the votes and you're overthrown, it's a mutiny. But at the end of the day, they didn't break free from like and gain their independence. They just picked out a new pimp, and now it came in the form of Jocelyn. And they had their daddy, now they got their mommy.
Now we were covering just a few weeks ago or a month ago at this point now, Succession. This is the, and not to spoil those that haven't caught up with Succession, but let's just say all the old guard who was, representing the Roy families, all of a sudden just, found their new master in the finale. Again, I won't spoil how that ended, which I do have in my notes. There is almost a Succession moment at the end of this episode with the hands being held out with Shiv and Tom that we'll talk about later. But it was a very reminiscent. Yes, it was almost like, damn, is that a shot for shot? But yeah, I agree with you guys, Bo. I feel like the show kind of lost not the show, but the character Tedros lost a lot of the fear factor that it was almost created in the first few episodes. Like he's no one you want to piss off or get on the bad side with, but he just became a joke at the end, and Jocelyn was telling him what to do, how to do it, when to do it, how high do you jump. It was kind of it wasn't well executed like I would have liked it to be. But see, Tedros gives them his motivational speech and tells Xander that this is your time to shine, man. You need to go ahead and step up and all that. I don't know, man. Nan, how did you feel about the Xander and Tedros relationship? Because it started, I want to say episode 3, when they were on the balcony talking about, he gave him his idea about the photo and all that stuff. And then later in the episode, they're at the dinner table and he's like, Xander, go, tell her how you feel. How did you feel about this relationship, man? Because I feel like it was going somewhere, but then it ultimately just didn't go anywhere.
Sending it back and having like Tedros be the person to make him sing again or whatever, be comfortable with it. It was just a weird development because it seems like he really did believe in what Tedros was saying to him right there. And like, oh, you gotta grab it and take your chance. And he's like so loaded out and like not very intimidating like he was. Like, did you really forget just the last episode when he tied you down, my boy? Like, what's going on here?
One of my gripes with this show, again, there's a lot probably left on the cutting room floor, but Chris, to get your thoughts on it. Xander and Leia, to me, are 2 examples of characters that the show tried to create this somewhat of like, feel bad for these characters, but not really giving us on-screen reasons why to feel bad. We hear the stuff that Jocelyn or maybe they have been a part of the last few years, but a lot of that stuff is off the screen. So to see Xander being like, okay, I'm going to be Jocelyn's bitch for most of the show. Now I'm going to be on, Tedros' side. Now I'm going to be back on I don't know, man. How did you feel about this character and in particular the relationship between Xander and Tedros? Did you feel like it was something that was earned or just kind of very rushed?
The Xander thing, like I'm cool with the Leia story. I know there's always going to be not enough character development for everyone. There's not enough time for everyone. I'm fine with that. But the Xander shit made no sense. I haven't seen a scene that was more uncomfortable than that taser thing or that neck collar thing in a while
last
on
week,
TV. That scene was so crazy that it didn't make sense for him to come back. Like, number one, you're not a prisoner of that house. If that happened to me, of course, you're never seeing me again. I'm coming back with the feds, respectfully. Number two, like, you didn't even make it where it was like enough for me to think, okay, I don't want to leave because they can do this for me. Like, it wasn't even like you were promised, like, oh, you're going to be on tour if you just live here. So like that didn't make sense either. So I'm like, the Xander thing, like none of that made sense to stick around and then set this dude Rob up that didn't even do nothing to you. Like, nah, like none of that made sense for me.
So weird.
Yeah, I think that, again, we'll talk about later here in a second, but just trying to line on Xander, I think it was supposed to represent just this whole idea of like Hollywood is like everyone's trying to get one over someone and everyone's trying to get their own, no matter what it takes. But again, I don't feel like the whole Xander situation was handled in a way that it was built up for us to have like this type of, resentment towards the character or rooting for the character. It was honestly kind of thrown in episode 3 because he was non-existent for the first 2 episodes. And then all of a sudden now he has this photo that he took last week. And now he's the whole reveal that he used to be a singer and had to put his talents aside just to be friends with Jocelyn.
Man, like also like in what world, like, if it's really Hollywood, like you would just send that girl to hook up with him and then just say, "Oh no, I wasn't consenting to that." Like, some random photo with like some like just because you're like none of that made sense to be in like you're cut out of a movie from that.
Rushed, as I mentioned earlier, the whole cut in episode 5 and 6 potentially, if that rumor's to be true, that felt so out of field. I mean, listen, to be fair, we see articles all the time that come out of left field, like just trying to show us how like Hollywood, literally, they love you 1 minute, they can hate you the next. Same with Jocelyn, she's on top of the world and she's on the bottom. So maybe that's where they were going with Rob, but it felt very rushed. To your point, Chris, like that happened.
I needed
it's less than 24 hours. It was literally less than 24 hours for that news cycle to hit the headlines, which, again, that sometimes happens in Hollywood, I guess. But, again, Jocelyn is the new cult leader. She's telling these kids that they're going to be opening the show for them. And this is, to me, I put in my notes, so sex sales was what I wrote down. And I'm going to start with you, Chris. This whole scene of this, I don't know what you want to call it, the clown show, was it meant to be funny to you, or was it supposed to be a serious moment? I'm referring to the whole
when
talented.
When they were all singing, like
I thought that was so unnecessary. Not unnecessary, but I just found it to be very comedic and to be very kind of poorly handled, in my opinion. But that's just me. I'll get to my thoughts in a second. But what did you think about just that whole setup? Andrew's coming over. He says a line when he runs to Andrew, or runs to Isaac. He looks like a hot Targaryen. To him singing, Ramsey singing, just that whole scene, and we'll talk about the little intercuts throughout that. But just, was it meant to be funny, Chris, or was it supposed to be a serious moment?
I was watching it as a serious moment, but I thought it was a crazy moment. Like these guys are all crazy. Like their kids are young, they live wild, but like you're in a room of actual executives. Like these are like real grown-ups, like with good jobs. Like this is a real meeting. Like even if it's at your crib, like. I thought it was insane that they were just enamored just because the kids could sing and dance. Like, and it wasn't like it was the Facts and Five out there, like you were just for the first time. Like these, like you guys are in the industry. Like people sing good for you every day. Like, and also, would they really be leading the tour like this? Like these are no-namers, and you talking about a pop star that's supposed to be Britney, Christina, and I'm gonna have the Junkyard Gang.
I'm not a scout for talent.
Stadium.
It seems so fake and seems so to be fair, there are sometimes, we hear about these overnight celebrities or people that were just on their mom's couch and the next day they're buying $1 million homes. But it felt, that's why I asked the question if it felt to me comedy, because it felt very fantastical and very comedy heavy to me. It was like, this is a joke. Because I don't find any of these people to be serious people, and this whole situation just seems so weird to me. But now, did you take it to be a serious moment of like these artists who've been dealing with all the Tedros and shit now have their moment to shine, or did you, like me, thought it was very comedic?
I thought it was funny. I thought it was a funny moment. Not to say that I didn't like it per se, though, because we saw like a little bit of the breakdown of Tedros throughout the whole thing. A little bit of a power struggle. And, since the beginning, I've been saying like this show would be I thought it would be like a really good satire if it was just focused around the executive. Like if we were just getting a show with Destiny and Andrew,
their perspective,
Finkelstein,
handling
and
wild,
just handling different. I think that would be a bomb ass show if it was just kind of like going through different celebrities and idols or whatever. But what you said, fantastical, because wow, it's like that's really it. That's all you're going to need, and in 6 weeks you're selling out stadiums. Amazing. But dreams.
The Jocelyn song was fire though. I ain't gonna hold you. The performance was nuts. Like
there are. As you guys said, there are moments in this scene that I thought was like, okay, this is interesting, but I thought this scene to me perfectly summarizes the show. It's chaos. There are moments that are like, that's interesting, but then it's overshadowed by someone being goofy and like fumbling plots and fumbling like the whole so throughout this whole chaotic tour kind of talent show thing, they're mixing in, as Nine said, Tedros is kind of like, oh, these are my babies. They're taking my shine away. And then we got Destiny saying, I'm not going to let the Hollywood system take them away. And it's all this is going on. Meanwhile, Chris, the whole Leia of the situation.
Oh my God.
Rob calls Leia because he's been trying to reach out to Josh the whole time. She's been ignoring his call. I will admit, because I talked about last week, the end of the episode, who are we supposed to think is setting up Rob? Is it Xander setting up for himself like an ace in a hole to play this to his advantage later on? Was it the favor that Tedros wanted him to do earlier in the episode? Or is it Jocelyn? Is she setting this up? So I will admit the show did a good job of making me think, oh, did Jocelyn set this up? But we'll talk about it. It was Tedros who set up Rob. But Chris, man, it was just, like I said, this scene perfectly summarized the show where there are moments to be like, that's something interesting to kind of play around with, to kind of explore. But then we're cut off guard by Leia trying to get the attention of Xander, to get the attention of Jocelyn. We're cut off with the conversation with the executives of like, oh, I want to sign them. No, I want to sign them. It's so much going on, Chris, and I'm just like, a kid on TikTok scrolling through. I can't, because it keep my focus. There's so much going on. Like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, no, I do love chaos, so I'm not.
Hey, me too. I control chaos for me.
Chaos
control
is
chaos.
Yeah, I was fine with the chaos of it, but yeah, the Rob thing really kind of bothered me, and Xander just flipping up like flipping like that. Like I'm like, what are you even doing here? Like you were assaulted. Like
you're a victim.
You could have like gone to the police for your own fucking lie about Rob. You could have just got him hemmed up and you'd have been good anyway. It was just crazy to me. And then just these executives, I'm just watching them. I'm just like, I guess it's like a look at Hollywood and just being like, maybe these people are idiots sometimes. Like when we think that just because they're
that's
suits,
very true, Chris. Yeah,
they got their shit together, but they're just like
they
sitting
just as
in
crazy
someone's
as a
living
talent.
room.
Yeah.
Watching this Showtime at the Apollo act for amateurs.
Broke American Idol. Yeah.
No, exactly. No, it was definitely chaos, but I don't mind the chaos.
I don't mind chaos too, Chris. Like I said, I love control chaos. And what I mean by that is like purposeful, strong storylines that all of it comes together. Like this is the finale, theoretically speaking. So all these plots are supposed to be like, again, going back to Succession. Whenever we had these characters in a room, it all came, what's going on with Shiv and Tom and everything with Rome, and it's all coming together. This to me played poorly because, again, who cares about the Rob thing? That was literally brought up last week. Leia's she's literally the little kid at Thanksgiving trying to get her mom's attention to see, when the food's ready and no one's paying attention to her. Meanwhile, we're watching these executives, and I told you now, I'm not a big Eli Roth fan, but he was kind of funny throughout this because he's the only one that thought, like, to me, he was the only one reacting naturally, like, this is a shit show. What is going on? But Nan, I mean, how did you feel about this, man? Are you more kind of like with Chris saying that, yes, it's chaotic, but you were enjoying the madness, or are you kind of leaning towards me where it's like, yeah, it's chaos, but there's no control to this chaos. There's no like interesting enough plots going on to make it all come to this, moment.
I actually thought the plots were interesting, and I'm going to say it was a funny, ridiculous scene, and it's just the things. This is where I think I may have felt most of like, if this was going to be 2 episodes, this is where, I don't know, maybe they cut out a lot of things that led up to this, or maybe we like missed a day between episode 4 and episode 5, and that's why turning out the way they are, like these conversations are being had in that manner. But I think this moment right here,
Nikki and Tedros,
right, that was like really unnecessary, because I don't get what her end game was there, because this guy, she already knows that this guy has no like contracts, these people aren't signed. She would have recognized that, like, oh yeah, we can cut him out very easily, and we do not need to worry about that at all. And that's literally the decision that we see her make at the end of this whole scene. So it's like, yeah, what was any of that? The Leia thing, it is Yeah, she went from being one of my favorite characters throughout the series to just being like, girl was fine just for 1 second here.
To that point, I think that should have been her moment, right? Again, I know, like Chris said, there's so many characters and there's obviously only so much screen time that each of them have, but she has been a day one episode character that has been pretty much shitted on the whole series, whether it's Tedros in the back seat eating his girl out in front of her, whether it's Tedros telling her to shut up, calling her all types of names. This should have been the moment.
The pool party.
The pool party, embarrassing her like 4
Xander
times.
Even told her to shut up.
Xander,
this episode.
This was the moment that Leia, and also too, the actress is probably the most famous of all of these people in the show. If I'm being honest with you, she's had a, Shiva baby. She's bodies. In Bottoms later this year. Like, she's the most popular actress in this entire show. For her to just be kind of thrown to the wolves or just thrown to the backside, to me, was ridiculous. But again, this should have been Leia's moment. She should have said, you know what, Jocelyn, F you, F Xander, Tedros, this whole situation, that should have been her moment. But it was just, again, her just being a little kid, being like, hey, it just, I don't know, it just felt kind of silly to me. And again, it plays into this whole scene. It's just like, who are we supposed to be focusing on right now? Whose moment is it to shine? It was just too much for me, and it just didn't really play out. But Chris, I want to go back to you because I think the one thing that did stand out to me was seeing Jocelyn, again, going back to episode 1, not being able to hit her marks during the rehearsal. Episode 2, crying and saying her mom's name when she's doing the video shoot. Now she's hitting the marks because this is who she's done all this stuff to build her confidence up to hit the marks. Last time Andrew was over there, she embarrassed herself, but now he's over here and she has full control over the situation. And speak on it, Chris, man. Like, I know, if I'm not mistaken, did you go to a Janet Jackson concert a couple weeks ago?
Hell yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought I remember seeing. Shout out to the icon. But I bring Janet Jackson up is because obviously she's a goddess and just one of the greatest performances of all time. And not comparing Jocelyn to her, but I'm just saying, as far as the moment to shine, this is Jocelyn's moment to shine and kind of have her Janet moment in front of the executives to prove that she is still in this fictional world. She is still the idol.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it, but it's still like those moments that you mentioned, the mom shout outs and the breakdowns, like those, are we to assume that those were not real moments? Like I thought that those were really happening because then if they're not, then it's just, then the show gets to me.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Like she's going to those lengths of.
Yeah. Because then there would be some sort of cheesy flashback where they're just like, explaining like this is or a different angle or this. I think those were real moments. But again, like it just doesn't tie up at the end where she's still around him. If she really kicked him to the curb, I think this would have made a lot more sense. But maybe Sam is not trying to make sense. Maybe that's not his goal, to make sense.
I have it on the screen here. I just can't get over the Xander reveal because again, they set it up where Leia goes to him and she finally gets his attention, and we got the security guard getting in the way, but she finally gets to Xander, and then he says to her, well, you never know what someone's capable of. Like, again, your thoughts on that, Nan, and also just your thoughts on, like I said, Jocelyn finally getting the confidence to do what she's like born to do, which is, again, be the idol.
The thing about like crafting an anti-hero story, if that's what like Sam Levinson was going to do here, where we kind of like figure out more about Jocelyn's more manipulative ways and that she just wants to be a pimp too. Then you gotta flesh that out a little bit more before we are rooting for that person to have their moment, right?
Yeah.
Really understand where Walter White's coming from when he becomes Heisenberg, right? And we don't really get that in this for Jocelyn here.
Yeah. Because I mean,
Leia. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, bro. Go talk about Leia, because I mean, there's not much after to talk about with her because, like Nan said, she's pretty much just like leaves and doesn't have a moment. But what was you gonna say, Chris?
Yeah, just real quick, I just think because Leia, it's like, then just don't make her the best friend and the assistant. Just make her the assistant. Because
one or the other.
If you're really a best friend, you really would know how your friend moves. Because you're like, why would you act like this? Why are you doing this? Why are you hanging with him? Like he's rapey. Like,
yeah.
Then she would know, like, oh, she's doing her thing again. Like, she's just using this guy. Like, just don't make her the best friend.
Exactly. Let us know in the chat, guys, how you felt about Leia. Because again, I think that character was. I thought it was gonna. I think I said weeks ago. I feel like she was gonna be the one that's gonna kill Tedros and have her moment to shine. But ultimately, like Nine said, she just kind of leaves. Which, respectfully, she's the adult in the room. Like, I guess she didn't have to, pull Jocelyn down to make herself feel better. She just left this. She should have left weeks ago, probably years ago, if all this is to believe about how Jocelyn's been treated her whole life, whatever. But yeah, shout out to Leia. She was the adult in the room the whole time, I guess. But to get your thoughts on this, Chris, to go back to it, man, as far as the big moment, I guess, from last week, what was the photo supposed to be? The plot twist of the photo. We find out, again, they set it up like it was almost posing it as it was Jocelyn setting up the photo. We come to find out that it was Tedros who had Xander take the photo of Rob with the girl. And the girl says that she was sexually assaulted by him. And now he's losing, they're reading the article, say who you will, fill in the blank. Is it a Jonathan Major situation that we're currently watching right now? Is it a Ezra Miller situation that we're watching right now? Is it a million other celebrities in the history of Hollywood that's been accused of certain things, both found guilty and both found to be innocent? The moment, did it work for you, Chris? Because ultimately, Tedros gets his one last kind of moment to kind of get back at Jocelyn and make she cries briefly. Yeah. Did that moment, was there anything that stood out to you? Did it work? Did you feel the impact of Tedros like ultimately still getting one last laugh?
This seemed to me like, and I'm not trying to understand Sam again, but this seemed to me one of those things where he just wanted to make that statement about like people getting canceled and Hollywood jumping to like
conclusions.
So he kind of just squeezed this circle into the square, however that expression goes, or the square thing into the circle peg or whatever. Yeah. I just felt like he wanted to make that statement, and he's like, "This is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna use Rob." And then I'm sure the other writers were like, "Wait, Rob? Wait, who's Rob? Wait, why is Rob on the show again?" And he's like, "No, because he's gonna get canceled by Hollywood." And they're like, "All right, whatever." So like, it didn't make sense for me, and like it wasn't fleshed out, and I just feel like he was just trying to just say that, like just use that one to make that statement and then not have it make real sense.
That goes back to my issue, Chris. I totally agree with you too, man. That's my issue with this finale and just kind of in general this show. There's so much that I think Sam, and again, if the rumors are to be true that he kind of came in to reshoot the entire show and to fill in the blanks essentially.
Who was the first director?
Amy Schmetz was the first director, if I'm not mistaken.
What is she?
She's an actress turned director. She's been in a lot of stuff. And I say that I can't think of anything off top, but I did see one of her feature films a couple years ago. It was like a horror movie. She's and also she did. There was a show on Showtime with Elvis Presley granddaughter. A show about like sex workers. It was on the tip of my tongue. It's like, gosh, brain fart like a mofo. I'm gonna look it up in a second. But anyway, she's a talented individual to say the least. But she got away from the project. Sam came in and made it his own show. And I applaud him for trying to make it work. Riley Keough. Yes, Riley Keough. Thank you, guys. She's a great actress. Elvis Presley's granddaughter, if I'm not mistaken. But this, Chris, it's like, dude, this scene here was supposed to be kind of more impactful, supposed to hit more of a moment for the character. But I don't know, it just fell flat for me, Chris, in this moment where she finds out that Tedros played her again after having had played her to set up the whole scenario, but it didn't hit, man. It didn't hit. It was so much going on
because it didn't like if they wanted to make it hit, they would have to assume or show that Rob is now in the picture and they are dating or trying to get back together.
Exactly.
So then the case or the charge makes a rift between them. But you already dismissed Rob, so we don't care about Rob anymore.
Exactly, bro.
It was
And what you just said, I thought it was going to be like, oh, now because they almost made it seem like, oh, this is going to mess up her tour momentum. And it was going to kind of mess up her situation, her having this comeback, but it didn't affect her at all. Now, because especially if we're supposed to believe that she, like you just said, if they would have made it seem like last week, her and Rob were like, yes, we're getting back together. I loved you. We made a mistake. Let's make it happen again. But she just used him for sex. Like she didn't really love him, care for him. So that whole Rob plot, cancel Rob, was kind of silly, and especially her reaction here. It would have worked for me, Chris, if she would have smiled. If she would have been like, I don't give a what? You think that I care? But the fact that she cried, I don't know if it even speaks to Rob or if it just speaks to like this MFer is still trying to get. I don't know. I feel like this tear that we see right here from her didn't really work for me on a lot of different levels. To go back on what I was trying to remember, yes, The Girlfriend Experience was the name of the show I was trying to remember, Chris. It was on Showtime, and it was a show about, like I said, sex workers. And Amy Schmetz was the one who directed. I don't know if she created the show, but I know she was heavily involved in directing several episodes. So, man, don't you hate that, Chris, when you just have an ultimate brain fart? You see the name, it's right on the tip of your tongue, and it just every day, bro. It never fails. It never fails. But
I just be thinking of like brain farts, and then like when like if it was like the 80s and you just like couldn't Google that shit, you just
right. It's like, well, you just stuck forever. You're permanently that person.
Ask everyone you know, or just move to Hollywood and just
at night, and you're sleeping like, man, that one time that I couldn't remember that actor. Yeah. That's scary. That's your horror movie, Chris. You should pitch that as a movie, like people that didn't have technology, and it's like this demon or like this, they're stuck and they can't figure it out. It's caught on the tip of your tongue, and it's like people can't remember things, say things, and it like kills them. Because Chris, we're
gonna be rich.
We're gonna be rich. Y'all heard it here first. A24 coming out next year. It's called Tip of My Tongue. It's a great horror psychological thriller. You heard
obviously
it here.
Jordan Peele, executive producer.
Jordan Peele. And Sam Levinson is gonna be directing it, by the way.
Yeah, for the sex scenes.
For just a second, as we kind of pivot over to, okay, Jocelyn has her moment to shine. She has her even though her, I don't even know what we call Tedros at this point, her mentor, boyfriend, I don't even know their labels at this point, her but muse. Yeah, she's able to.
This is a terrible freeze.
I had to put it up there, man, because it just reminds us of the rat tail.
Jesus.
We get the moment of the photo. She has a moment to collect herself. She tells Haim to get him out of my life. I don't care what the number is, which to me also is, I don't want to say a plot hole, but it's like, then a couple weeks ago, you said that number one, that he's been paying her mortgage, paying all this money. Where is he getting this money from is the question I have, but that's another show for another day. But if
Tedros takes the money, how do I prove that he comes back? Like, that he doesn't come back? Like, there's no contract. Like, I could just take your money and then still be annoying on Wednesday.
Which, by the way, ultimately ended up being the case because he got back on her life. So it was just a wasted check on his end. We see that Tedros is told by Haim he tells him this whole story of a big bad wolf, and he's the hunter, this, that, and the other.
I like that little monologue.
It was okay. It went on too long because I was more focused on like, okay, Jocelyn getting her moments, because she goes off on the side, takes her shoes off because she has to collect herself, and she puts on the show to make Andrew, okay, yes, we're gonna go ahead and put her on tour and move forward with all that. Well, I guess to backtrack. So let me know, Chris, you like that monologue and that whole situation and how that whole thing played out?
I like that monologue. I like that character. Because I'm hating this guy the whole season, The Weeknd. So I'm like, okay, someone just talk to this dude like serious, like enough. Like enough is enough, because y'all really let him come into the house and fire people that he didn't even hire. Like, finally someone is talking to this dude like the scum that he is.
Like, the game's over, bro. The
like, enough with this. So I was like all for it. Like, show me that you got people in your corner that really like ride for you.
What did you think about this whole monologue, wolf story for Jocelyn to ultimately come up again, do her moment, but just in particularly going back to what Chris was saying about, again, Tedros yet again being kind of, broken down by another character in the show.
This was gangster by Haim, because that I'm the hunter. I was like, ooh, okay. He's really about that. You already know he has that strap in the car too.
He does.
So I'm praying over him. I don't even know what that was about, really, because
not to cut you off now, but to go back to your point of like building to this scene, it's another example of like, okay, why are you praying? This is Tedros. This isn't Suge Knight. Why are they this is again my inconsistency. They show his cult leader or followers don't give a damn about him anymore, but yet they're like so scared to get. Why are you offering him money to get out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Get him out of here.
Yeah,
Like, well, I don't even understand why they were building him up to be this big, bad, scary guy.
Besides torturing Xander, which they would have known about probably.
Yes.
They didn't show him doing anything scary where they'd be like, all right, we can't this guy normal. We got
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Great point. Yes, excellent point.
I mean, he's threatening people in the store of stomp people in the streets, and
that wasn't the worst scene of the whole show.
He slapped the nutrition. Like, they're showing that he does all these moments, but at the end of the day, he's a punk. I don't know. It was ridiculous to me, that they're making it seem like, okay, please God, make him get out of here. It's like, come on, man. This isn't, like I said, this isn't Suge Knight. This isn't freaking Ike Turner. Like, this is Tedros. Like, this, I don't know. The show is just kind of, at this point, I'm like, this is
Hunter Biden's house. This is the Weeknd's house. Or whatever
it was it was too much hype for a little man.
Very strange. I don't know, like, taking it for $500K?
$500K, 9.
The funny thing is, he could have taken the money and then Jocelyn would have still invited him back.
Will say, I've been poo-pooing on this scene. I didn't like it. Like I said, I know you guys are pointing out some good points, and I agree with you. I still didn't like the scene. But I did, going back to just knowing that she's an actress who had to learn how to sing and dance for the purpose of this show. I thought that Jocelyn did her thing in this scene here, this performance of, like, being a doll girl and listening to all the commands and all that. It was a nice little one too.
It's worth a rewatch for that one song alone. She was saying some things.
She was, man, and she was singing and dancing at the same time. She has her moment to shine. Andrew says, "Okay, I'm gonna go. You proved it to me. You're gonna have the tour. I'm all aboard." Meanwhile, we see, finally, someone's dragging him out of the house. But I'm like, oh, they're dragging him out of the house. They're going to throw him outside. He's going to have to get an Uber. But then they just bring him to a car for him to rip up a check. I'm just like, yo, this is ridiculous, man. Y'all acting like this dude actually has actual power. But this is the moment where things just kind of, I was already kind of off put by that scene that we just talked about, minus a couple moments to shine. But we see Leia leaves. S9 mentioned she leaves a note. We don't know what the letter says, which is another, just like they forgot about Leia, or it just didn't really matter what she said in the letter. I would assume she said, I still love you. We still have a business together. I'll still be your friend, but you're just toxic, and I need you to.
Jocelyn threw that shit away.
She threw it away, right?
She's like, shut up, Leia.
Right, pretty much. That's, oh my goodness. You just, why even have her in the show if y'all just don't even give her closure at all? We don't even get to see the letter. We don't have like the classic TV moment where the character is reading the letter and it's like the voiceover of the actual person that wrote it. We didn't even get that for Leia
or something. Yeah.
9. Chris, do we need a spinoff of Leia's revenge? Her going on tour, having her own concert with Isaac.
Listen,
is that the next spinoff, Chris?
I'm really just happy that when she had to tell Jocelyn something, it wasn't that Isaac got her pregnant. I'm like, this is not what I need to see. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh no, please, girl, don't do that.
Oh man, that would have been more exciting, I guess, than ultimately what ended up happening. That's funny. And speaking of pointless, I know there's a lot of K-pop fans out there that was like, the only reason I'm watching this is for Diana, which I can't think of the actress or the person's name in real life. Is it Jamie something? Can't think of it. But the actress that played Diana is part of a K-pop band. It's like a global sensation.
Think something.
Blackpink.
Yes.
I hope Blackpink fans are okay, because my goodness, the actress and the character Diana was completely, this is again feels like another rewrite, or like they gave her something to be interesting, but then they just completely it
was the more interesting story.
Yes.
It was the more
I'm going to toss it to you, 9. We go to the scene with Diana. We have her talking to Nikki. She says the record's getting cut. She ultimately cuts her. She says, oh, write a song about it. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of that. They've been building 9 since episode 1. And this is where I say the show is just so chaotic. The whole idea of like this background singer who's almost going to take the limelight from the actual star. That bag was fumbled so hard, 9. It was just like, my goodness, waste of screen time, waste of, not from the actress. I thought she did as good as she could from what she was given.
What she had.
But my goodness, that was just such a waste of a plot at all. 9, your thoughts on that whole Diana
It was ridiculous.
thing.
And I know I wasn't here last week, but when she went last week to sign that record deal, I was just like, you're not going to bring a lawyer with you. You're not going to have your own little counsel or anything.
I thought the same thing.
You're going to be
Just taking their
around
word
all
for
of
it.
these snakes, dude.
Yep.
And when she's like, you were going to offer me the best legal team, I was like, you can't trust the people that are going to be providing you the legal team to like have your back legally.
Like, and especially knowing how you got to be in that position, like they won't do it again to like just flip it on you.
Yeah, it's insane. But it would have been, I think, a more interesting show if this was The Idol. Like, let's say Lily Rose Depp was playing was playing this character, and then like episode 2, that's when they overthrow whatever Jocelyn is in now, and it's more of like, it would be a lot more interesting if there was a mix of those dynamics in there.
And using Tedros to try to get her to overthrow, to get her back on top.
Exactly. And then when she's like more on top, then she starts like, sympathizing for Jocelyn, who she overthrew, or like having in conflict. It would have been a lot more interesting.
It almost
would have been out of the Weeknd's house for at least one episode.
Nah, look, man, they said The Weeknd said, hey, y'all, I'm an executive producer. I'm also trying to sell my house on Zillow. If we could just have 99% of the show take place in my house, that would be fantastic. Let's do this.
Really show it off.
That house
really show it.
That house. The house was a star. I didn't look at the credits. Did it say who the house? Did they give the credit to the house?
I want the door. That door was so far.
The door. Listen, the balcony, the door, the pool. I mean, it's a Tony Stark type of house, y'all. But
definitely Starky.
Very Starky, but unfortunately, the talent inside of the house, not so much. At least in the show. I'm not going to say that The Weeknd's a talented individual, but he got a long way for the acting. But Chris, man, what did you feel about Diana? Like me and Nan, you feel like there was something. Again, there is something there. There is something there with this character, but I just think they either forgot about it or again rewrites, put in all the pieces of the puzzle. She was one of those things that kind of got cut from the main script. Her, Leia, Xander, all those secondary characters with interesting motives, interesting plots, end up just going nowhere.
No, I thought it could have been interesting. I didn't understand having her in this last episode at all because I didn't understand what happened to her, and it just didn't make any sense. And then it's like, what's the point of you having, like, maybe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where she was like, "Hey, like they want to give me the song, but I wanted to ask you first." Like
last week,
why would you waste the conflict? Like just take it and then have her figure it out later, and then there's beef. Or like, what's the point of you being nice about it if then we don't follow up with nothing else? Like, what's the point?
Because that scene that you're talking about, Chris, almost makes it seem like she feels bad.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't even like when she went up to Jocelyn saying, "I want your blessing." Like you already know she took the offer. She didn't wait for her to say, "Oh yeah," you're like she already said yes to it. Not to cut you off, but I'm like this whole scene with her, good girl, bad girl, working with Tedros, it was just completely lost in translation.
Literally.
What's like really interesting to me is that World Class Sinner is like Jocelyn doesn't want that song in the first place.
Yeah,
like it's almost agreed upon, and then all of these other people, they're willing to sign on and get on stage with Jocelyn, but you already like shot this whole music video for this. Like, wouldn't it just make sense to just like also just have her be a star? I know that like Jocelyn did get in the way of it, or that's what's implied for it to
she said, "Jocelyn, do this."
Right, like okay, we want Diana, but that is just like such a weird thing for even Jocelyn to do.
It is almost kind of like, and again, they didn't build it up to like this get back moment, but it is like to the point of the little bit of narrative. It's her moment to get back at the girl who was ultimately the one that tried to get her set up and all that. But it fell flat for me because it was just like, it almost would have been beneficial for Jocelyn just to use her. Hey, get on stage, make my tour even more bigger. I want to take a percentage of your single, and to take some agency back from that. But she just ultimately just was like, I don't know, it fell flat.
I'm just taking it in full context because that means you introduce me to the love of my life that I'm going to have on. Like, what malice do I actually have towards you?
Yeah.
If I was like the most honest person, I told you what was going on in front. Ask for your blessing. You don't want this song anymore. So why do you care?
Exactly. And the same, I mean, to that point too. Now, like
for no reason.
She forgave, well, assuming she forgave Xander for betraying her.
Exactly.
Why not do the same? And again, I understand there's a lot more history with Xander and Jocelyn compared to these two, but it's just like, why even have this kind of malice towards her? Because, like Nan said, Chris, in a weird way, if it wasn't for Diane, she would have never met Tedros, and if it wasn't for meeting Tedros, she wouldn't be maybe having this tour and get out of her funk. So it was almost like, maybe in a sick way, I owe you in a certain extent, but I'm going to have you work for me and manipulate you like I do everyone else. Know in the chat how y'all felt about Diane and how they ended the character story. Wrapping this up, Chris and Nine, we get this moment where I have said it numerous times, dating back to just even more recently with a fantastic show by the name of House of the Dragon. I do not like time jumps and I do not like off-screen development. And we get both of these things in this last 10 minutes of the show. We fast forward to, I believe it was 6 weeks later. And in that time, we see that, or we learn that the journalist who was writing the story on Vanity Fair is now going to be writing a new narrative, which is tearing down Tedros, which again is like, who who are you? Why are you even mentioning someone that has no name in Hollywood in a Vanity Fair article? Mind-boggling. But hey, that's the show. The journalist is writing the show about Tedros. CIA's on his ass. He lost his club. Meanwhile, Jocelyn's stock has never been higher. The tour's sold out. She has new singles that are selling out. And all this is happening. Cut to 9. Tedros pulls up to the arena, hoping that Jocelyn has left him a artist pass, and they don't know who's Tedros. She puts it under his real name. It was kind of funny. Before we get to the actual moment of them talking, the 6 weeks, 9. Again, sometimes like Barry, I don't know if you guys watch Barry, but Barry had a very controversial time jump in the middle of its last season, which worked and didn't work in some elements, but normally I'm not a fan of time jumps, especially in an actual episode. Is not, to be fair, it's not like years later, but it was, 6 weeks is a pretty long time when we've been, if I'm not mistaken, every episode of the show has been essentially like every day has been an episode. But now, what did you think about this time jump? And did you believe all the stuff that it was building up from the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it if she's like on this like massive comeback tour. And again, like even just like the bad publicity is great publicity, right? So with all of the like controversies that are swirling around her, and then like this piece about how she has been, what I'm thinking is like the angle that the Vanity Fair reporter was able to pick up on is her link with Jocelyn and Tedros. So that would have been like huge news, and that could have been like I don't know, it's like someone, if like we found out that like Beyonce was getting manipulated by like some pimp or something, that would be like we'd be like,
that's a point. That's a good
point. Blow up
like I mentioned Stevie J, because you imagine Stevie J was pimping out Beyonce behind the scenes,
like behind the scenes this whole time.
Or what's that dude's, Nicki Minaj's ex-boyfriend, Safari or something?
Safari.
Yeah, he was like secretly behind the creation of Nicki Minaj, and once she got big, she was like, okay, bye, peace out, my dude. Yeah.
So I can definitely believe that, just because that's it's kind of the shit that we all do. It's clamor for all of that. So
that's true. You make a good point. I was kind of dismissive of the whole thing, but it is because, like, to your point, now the story was to build her up, because that was another plot that we talked about in episode 1. What's this angle with Vanity Fair? Is it to build her up, to break her down, but ultimately ended up working to her advantage? But Chris, your thoughts on this time jump here, man, and the whole narrative is at play. And again, Johnson's stock is now on the highest rise possible. But also, as I pull up this screenshot here, I'm thinking of at least the look of the character. It reminds me very much of a Marilyn Monroe type of look that she has. And if you all are familiar with Marilyn,
I thought they were going with
Yeah,
I thought they were trying to do that callback to like Fatal Attraction because they watched that in episode 9.
That's exactly
ladies and gentlemen,
what it is.
this is why 9 and my man Chris is on the show, because they bring the fire.
There it is.
Thank you, 9. That is Chris, because I was going to say, it reminded me kind of like Marilyn Monroe, like how if you're familiar with her story, she lost a lot of her agency and men completely controlled her life. But yes, to your point, it's been a while since I've seen Fatal Attraction, but there is a moment where the character essentially is manipulating the Michael Douglas character the whole time. Yes. Take it away, Chris, because you just blew my mind, man. Take it away.
Oh, wait, is it Fatal Attraction or is it
it's they showed it in the movie. It's
her and homegirl Leia was watching.
I think is it Basic Instinct?
Maybe it's Basic Instinct. That's what I'm thinking of, but it's
okay. Yeah. Yes, you're right. It is because that's not Helen Hunt. But yes, it is Basic Instinct. Yes. Because that's that's the famous. I think she might even be wearing
she's wearing like the
Sharon
same
has
top
the white
when
she has her legs. Yeah, very famous. Yes. Again, this is why Chris and 9 are here, because they bring the nuggets, guys. So yes, continue, Chris, as you were saying for that moment.
I thought number one, I thought that the look was fire here, and I saw the callback because they were watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this scene was fire because then you get that one little dig. I'm like, oh, they really played him by not letting him backstage and all that. First of all, I'm like, how he even get a pass to come in? That should have told me that they were just playing with him. But then it all went downhill when that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, she's wearing the exact same shirt. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a great call out, and also, like I said, to the credit of Chris and 9 bringing up the call out of Basic Instinct, the look of Sharon Stone. Great call out, and this is another example. Again, love it or hate the show, there are moments where there are great callbacks, because that is a great callback, Chris, of them. It's a quick scene, right?
Yep.
Them watching a movie. But whenever you see a movie in a movie or a movie in a show or vice versa,
it's for a reason.
It's implying something. It's like letting the audience know that. And if we even go back to that, I think that was episode 1, Chris. If we even go back to that scene, it's telling you the writing on the wall the whole time that Jocelyn's manipulating the situation. She's not being taken advantage of. So it's been there all along. Again, 9, I try to always, we try to squeeze as much as we can out of the show. And there's moments like that, as y'all both just highlighted, that, there is some attention to detail every now and then, even if it's hard to find through the craziness of the show.
Really pull it off? Or did they kind of just like sprinkle
happy accident?
It's
the Starbucks cup on Game of Thrones. They just, it's just there.
Right. I mean, they did it for a reason for sure, but they didn't like really use it to the best effect.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been a while since I've even like thought of Basic Instinct, so I'm a little bit hazy on the details.
From what I remember, the Sharon Stone character, which is a very manipulative individual, and she kind of played, I won't say damsel in distress, but she played very like you can get over on her, and that she was kind of 10 steps behind, but she was really the one kind of controlling things from behind the scene. I don't want to spoil the movie, but she like, gets hers with Michael Douglas.
I don't know if Jocelyn got her like real big moment to be like, aha.
The execs are now the kind of the peanut gallery making fun of Tedros, like, oh, we screwed him over, ha ha ha. We really did one over on that guy. Again, I'm thinking to myself, guys, you're happy that you tore apart a nobody. Like, congratulations, guys, congratulations. You tore down a guy with a rat's tail, but they're celebrating that. And I've been saying it for weeks, man. I wish she would have had a little bit more to do in this finale, but whenever she is on screen, she eats it up. I'm talking about Destiny. Chris, I don't know how you feel about that character. Me and 9 have been praising her all the weeks that we've been talking about this show. Your thoughts on her? And I guess it just kind of wraps up to, I guess, the most shocking moment of the episode. He gets to the bag, they clown him. He finally gets there. And before he meets with Jocelyn, he talks to Destiny, and she pretty much tells him that, man, we got one over on you, bro. You were a pimp. I don't care how you look at it, call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you were a pimp. Exactly. And she says, and this is where my jaw, not literally, but figuratively speaking, my jaw hit the ground when she says, if you screw her over again, I'm going to kill you. And I'm immediately in myself thinking, is this really happening? Number one, coming from this character that I really enjoy, and seems to be the only character that was very realizing the situation from the get-go, I can't believe that she was saying this, Chris, that she's pretty much, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Jocelyn's decision, but I can't believe that Destiny wasn't able to talk her out of ultimately, Chris, allowing him to come back into her life. And we see her telling him, I missed you. I couldn't do this without you. Chris, man, and then we'll talk about the last scene. But Chris, just your thoughts on number one, Destiny, just your thoughts of the actor and the character these past 5 weeks. But then were you just as shocked to hear her accepting him back into Jocelyn's life?
Yeah, I just put in the chat, I like everything that Destiny does. I've been liking her from the beginning. I was like, am I hearing it right? When she was like, if you heard her again, it's like, what do you mean?
There's a second chance? Yeah, right.
What are you talking about? Did y'all try to like erase him? So I thought that was weird. But to me, Destiny overall, besides that, was like perfect for this role. 100%. I believed everything that she was saying.
Your thoughts on Tedros getting his second chance with Jocelyn, but more particularly just your closing thoughts on Destiny, because like I said, the last few weeks have been really giving her flowers, deservingly so. She's been the most funniest character and the most real character this entire show, but not the realest in this moment. It was just kind of shocking that Destiny was, I don't want to say allowing, because at the end of the day, she is an employee of Jocelyn, so she really can't control which way she goes in this sense. But I'm just shocked that she was just like accepting him coming back in, and what did you think about it now?
I mean, fantastic. Divine Joy Randolph. And a little connection here, because right before he goes in, they roast him, call him Dolomite, and of course she was Lady Reed in that movie. Dolomite is my name, so there's a little connection there.
That's good.
And great call, great movie, by the way.
Fantastic movie.
Great movie.
But I mean, it feels like she knew what was up. Like, she's kind of like, when she was saying like we've all had to do things to survive, that's where I was just like, okay, I think she recognizes that. I think what maybe what they're trying to get across is that like we're all kind of pimping here as well. You know what I mean? We all have kind of like, ran your game in some type of fashion or whatever.
Sure.
Now, if you overstep this, then it's your ass. But at the same time, I do respect that what you've brought together and like what you brought to us. And I was like, this is like so mobby, you know what I mean? You're just the assistant to the pimp now.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, I don't know, that screenshot that you had of him is just also pretty funny. I just like seeing the Weeknd cry. The messaging for this is just so like weird. It's like, oh, was I a good pimp? Yeah, you were a good pimp.
You were good. You rattled up this. Well, to stick on that before we wrap up and see the final scene, I want to go back to you, Chris, as far as just kind of, again, the destiny of it all, and her, and to what Nine's point of like, we're all pimping someone in a situation. Jocelyn's pimping us, we're pimping her. It's a pimping game. But I guess my question for you, Chris, is just kind of like, what is this earned? Is this an earned scene for Destiny to have this moment with him? This was earned for him to kind of have this moment of clarity and being like, yeah, I messed up.
Nothing changed.
Giving me a second chance. Exactly. That's what I guess I'm referring.
The answer is
what's
no,
the lesson?
It's not earned. Because nothing happened. He didn't come back and say, I was tripping, I was bugging, I caught him. I saw potential in her, and I got carried away. Like, it was none of that, which would have been an easy reason for her to be like, all right, nigga, I got my eyes on you. But there was none of that.
It speaks with the problematic nature of the whole show, because is it like an ode to toxic relationships, or is it like, I don't know, are we trying to say that everyone is toxic in this situation and it's all grimy and nasty? Because I don't think they are landing on that either. But when you're saying like, Chris, like nothing changed. It all worked out for him at the end. Right.
I mean, again, I guess I'm just trying to just find some type of, and I'm not a Hollywood exec or executive producer or any matter, but I guess the message would be not yet. Yeah. Shout out to Chris. Sometimes shitty people win, I guess. Is that what we're getting at? It's just like sometimes, at the end of the day, Hollywood is a corrupt business. Hollywood and music industry is a corrupt business. Sometimes shitty people end up on top because, like Chris and Nine both said, what are the ramifications? He lost the club that was essentially I mean, we were only at the club once. We don't know if he was struggling with the club, if it was a big success, whatever. He lost his club. The IRS is now on him. He has his name out there in the public, which who knows why does it matter? No one knows who he is. I don't know. Is that the message, Chris and Nine? It's just like, hey, that's just the business sometimes, that if you screw over people enough, you might end up on top.
Maybe that is the message. Maybe it's just like you just can't win. It's just like the good. There is no room for the good guys.
Yeah, there's no good guy in the show at the end of the day. Besides Leia.
Onto messaging, or what the point of this all was supposed to be. Why is this show like able to justify its existence? I think, you know, this is going to be kind of like a benchmark for a long time for like this you know, Hollywood peculiarity of what HBO released. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are going to be looking at this like, remember The Idol?
I honestly, I think the shelf life of this won't be a lasting effect after a couple weeks or so. But yeah, I mean, just to get your final thoughts, gentlemen, on this scene. Again, she accepts him. She tells him, couldn't do this without you, and I need you, and we're about to take over the world. We see her, you know, they make their forgivings.
I knew the brush was going to be
this
there.
Is a, did you say Inception?
This is the top from Inception. It's like, what's that brush there?
Yo, that is hilarious, man. Put that on a t-shirt. Put the brush on a t-shirt and just have like a question mark.
Just have it spinning.
We need breakdown videos, explainer videos. This is like this needs to be talked about in years to come, especially in like schools and whatnot, like cinema. So I'm gonna start with you, Chris, on this exception moment. So this whole situation in episode 3, it was revealed that her mom used to beat her, but in particular, she had a brush that she would beat her with after she, you know, did her thing, whatever. Fast forward to the finale, Tedros, you know, they're now in love again. He picks up the brush and say, which I guess I'm forgetting. Didn't he pick up the brush in episode 3?
Yeah, he did.
Because he holds the brush in his hand, Chris, and he says, "Wait, isn't this the brush your mom beat you with?" Yeah, it is. It feels brand new. But didn't you hold it like 3 weeks ago? I guess maybe he didn't touch that part. Anyway,
but he didn't hit her with it.
He hit her with it, and he brushed her hair with it in the bathtub. I guess. Plot hole, I don't know. Inception. It was all a dream. Chris, he holds the brush, and then she looks at him and says, when she says, "I thought the brush was, you know, your mom beat you with it, but this is brand new." So I guess, Chris, the question I have for you, was that a fake story? We agree that her mom did abuse her to a certain extent, but to what extent? Was it all like? Because again, maybe I know you mentioned earlier, Xander was like, he was very, you know, emotional about it.
I thought it was real. Of course, I'm sure the brush, obviously, she's like, "Nigga, why would I keep that brush? What's wrong with you?" So I'm sure she was getting hit, but she's just like, this could work, and like he would fall into this trap. But I do think she was being abused. I think the calling for her mom in the video shoot was real. So it's like, you wouldn't just do that if you weren't going through some things. So, but yeah.
But is it real, Chris? Is it real, man?
I think it's completely real.
You guys think it's real? Okay. And I said that.
Interpreted this scene to mean that, like, oh, we're starting a new cycle now. Like, that old brush was for my mom. This new brush is for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted
I like that. Okay. Respect. Okay. Very, very interesting. You know what? You just changed my mind, Nine.
Hell yeah.
Very good moment. Mic drop, or brush drop, I should say. That's a new perspective on it. He's the new, I think we've been saying it for a while, that he's kind of the new mom of the situation, or dad. Okay. I like that, Nine. Yeah. But let us know in the chat, guys. Like I said, Nine just dropped the brush on us that this is the kind of a new cycle, which I definitely like that. Well, I don't like that because the show is like, I don't agree with those methods, but to the sense of the show, yes, it does make sense in the narrative of this toxic relationship that this is a new cycle of the sorts. But we end on stage, gentlemen, with her, with thousands of people screaming, her name. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, before I even wrap up that part, just to kind of go back to Nine mentioned it earlier with The Graduate, and I mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode that if there are any Succession fans out there, which if there isn't, what are you doing? Watch
Get
Succession.
your life right.
It's fantastic. If you guys remember in the finale of Succession, without spoiling anything, but for those that haven't seen it, there's a shot with two pivotal characters by the name of Shiv and Tom, who there's a shift in the dynamic of their relationship, to say the least. And there is a scene where one character is holding out their hand and the other character puts their hand over there. But it's essentially like Nam is alluding to with The Graduate. It's a situation where it's like this very toxic relationship moving forward. But more importantly, there's a dynamic and power that's shifting. Tedros essentially being led to believe that he was the leader of this relationship. He was controlling the situation.
Yeah.
This shot shows the complete opposite. Now it's Jocelyn like, hold my hand because I'm in control. I run this ship now. And he's just kind of like willingly accepting this new position of being his bitch. he's the one being pimped out. So that is a nice moment, especially since none of us in the panel and none of us probably watching at home are fans of Tedros. So it's kind of like, take it. And I hope now he's getting beat every night with a brush. And also, hopefully, he's brushing his hair and taking his showers. But we end when she tells him, I love you, this, that, and the other. 9, Chris, the crew, and the crowd's like, what the F just happened? Our girl is going back to this dude. She introduces this guy, Tedros, to the audience as as her family, the love of her life. He tells Tedros, go ahead. Come on, all right, go over there and watch me work. Who want to take it first? Chris, 9. This is the last shot of the episode. Which, by the way, I will give this. I would say the cinematography of the show. If there's one thing I will say about the show, Lily Rose Depp was solid throughout, and the cinematography was pretty amazing throughout. And this is a great capturing of just like you guys mentioned earlier. This is an actual concert, and I would imagine shooting a concert while shooting the show is not an easy feat. So it is a pretty well composition shot. But Chris, take it away, man. How do you feel about these last moments of Jocelyn revealing to the world that her love and her life is Tedros? And go ahead and be the housewife. Go sit over there while mommy goes to work.
Brings home the bacon. No, just like two other things, like to your point, cinematography, I think 5 out of 5. But in the actual episode, my God, like I just couldn't believe what I was watching. And if anything, like I would have been like cool with like her dissing him in front of everyone, like, oh yeah, Vanity Fair article, like this is the guy who tried to take advantage of me. This is the guy who tried to ruin my career.
That would
let's give it up for him. But because like I'm the baddest bitch in the industry. You drops like. But none of this made sense.
Yeah,
none of this made sense.
It was really weird, really rushed at this point.
And
it felt like it was supposed to be a twist or something, but I was like, what is going on here?
He's like in this. I mean, is it a bad deal? Is it something to be like, oh damn, this is my rest of my life is just terrible, millions of dollars, and I don't have to lift a finger. This is so bad.
I guess if the thing that he really wanted most is like complete control. And knowing that he's never going to have that, I guess would be the only way that he's not giddy about this whole situation.
True.
But it's weird.
Oh, and I also forgot to live out the fact that she calls her audience angels.
Oh,
hello, my angels.
Yeah, that was tough.
Chris, man, any final thoughts on this scene again? I think emotionally it would have worked for me if the show would have just made it out to be that this whole time that she's this girl that's has been pushed down, pushed over, taken advantage of, and she's now taking back some sense of agency. But at this point in the episode, they've shown us that she's been behind this the whole time. So it's almost just like, who cares? Who was your standout, and what was something you took away from this entire experience from the Idol?
I think Lily is a standout. I'll go real quick.
Shoot for it.
I think Lily is a standout. I was impressed with how she was able to make me believe that she was a huge pop star. But like I said, she grew up in Hollywood with one of the biggest movie stars, maybe of our generation. So there's that. But I thought she did a good ass job. I think the show is getting a weird rap that it doesn't deserve. like we said, I can name a shit ton of plot holes and things that they could have missed or done, things that they missed or did or could have done better. But at the end of the day, I was into it, and it was 5 episodes of my life, and I've seen shows go on for seasons and seasons and give me nothing. So I respect HBO for taking a risk on like edgy content, but exposing some of this weirdness of Hollywood in their own way. And I thought, it's just a show that people are I think they're kind of getting on board with just hating something because it's trending to hate. Like, oh yeah, I think this show is kind of whack. And if it's too sexual for you, it's 100% free to change the channel. So I think we could just look into doing that next time going forward.
So yeah, toss into you now. Favorite moments, standout performances, and final impressions on this show. And I guess just to throw another wrinkle in the mix, does this affect Euphoria moving forward as far as like how people perceive Sam Levinson and this maybe being a asterisk on his career so far, and people might be scared about Euphoria being in question?
I don't think so, just because Euphoria has always been in question. And there's always been kind of like weird drama going on with that. And of course the subject matter is very intense. I would even say it's more intense in Euphoria than in this show, right? With the how like kind of dark and like sadistic the sexual nature of things go, and that again it's more about like the placing and like what are we doing. I really have a problem with those first 2 episodes, and I would say episode 3 is where I was just like, not hate this. I really like that. Lily Rose Depp, amazing job. I hope this doesn't like fur up or anything, right?
I don't think it will.
I don't think that it will.
Yeah, I don't think
that it will.
I think
it's only going to help.
Hopefully,
I agree.
Yeah, hopefully this is like going to be a story that's like, ridiculous project. All of these people were, I think, playing their roles. It's just that it's just really weird. I'm not even going to say that The Weeknd did a bad job. I made me hate his character, and that's what we were supposed to do.
It's a great point, Nine. He did do the job.
I think they all did it's just a weird story. And
I agree with a lot that you guys said. I almost look at the Lily Rose Depp as kind of the Chloe, Isaac, Ramsey, Xander, like she's like the lost talent that is discovered from this show. So even though this show is kind of a Tedros of a sense, a toxic show at times, or a show that is questionable, there's talent that you can take away from it. And I think Lily, I think she's going to be okay. I think people are going to bring her on to more projects. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 2 actors that I want to see maybe work with Sam again. It's her and Divine. I would love to see both of them be on like Euphoria season 3. They fit perfectly. Like I think especially Lily is like, she looks like a, because everyone on the show is a supermodel. So she will fit right in and be like a Maddie. She can be like another Maddie character for Nate Jacobs' character.
Shout out to the Maddie cameo in episode.
The Maddie cameo, in episode 1, which was so quick. Which, by the way, to your point, Chris, this show does take place in the world of Euphoria. So hey, who's to say that one of the characters go to a concert of Jocelyn?
Wait, did it really?
Yeah. That Sam Levinson confirmed that the Maddie, that's Maddie in episode 1. So it takes place in the same world.
The actress,
no, she's playing Maddie. That was Maddie Perez, I think is her name in Euphoria.
Perez,
so
you got it right. That's
it all connects, Chris. It is the MCU. It's the Sam Levinson verse where everything connects. Assassination Nation, Malcolm and Marie, and Euphoria now add this redheaded stepchild in the mix. But overall, I will say, Lily stands out to me. Divine has always been a star, but she really just showed her star power. Like, even though she wasn't given the most, she shined in her moments. And then again, I can't think of the actress name, but that Chloe, because I think she's an actual singer in real life, the girl that played Chloe. She's a talented individual, man. Yeah, she's pretty dope. And then to Chris's point, I don't understand I understand people don't like the show because it isn't the perfect show. I get that. But the hate on this show to me was just like, oh my goodness, don't watch it. Why are y'all constantly complaining about how like dark and twisted and like manipulative. Like it's so much stuff that I read. I didn't read every single article or watch every single review, but I just feel like there's so much more terrible written shows out there than this. But neither here nor there. I didn't think it was as bad as the press made it out to be. But at the same time, as we talked about throughout this review, it does frustrate me, especially going back to our initial conversation up top. This is HBO. This isn't Freeform. This isn't ABC. This isn't Hulu. This is the Disney. Premium. Yeah, this isn't Disney. It's damn sure ain't no Disney because they would, you would not see any of this stuff on Disney, but or maybe you will subliminally in one of their animated movies. There's a Tedros in one of the Little Mermaid background. But no, this is HBO. So there is a part of me that's like, the bar is here and the idol's here, where it just doesn't give me the same quality that we're used to with HBO being such to a high standard. So there are moments in episode 3 and 4, like Nana alluded to, that really showed me that there is something good there, but it just got convoluted, messy. It was kind of like, again, I mentioned TikTok earlier. I feel like Sam Levinson was just scrolling with ideas, but never really stuck the landing on any of the messages. Because as we talked about with this ending, how are we supposed to feel as an audience with Jocelyn taking him back in after weeks of being like, oh man, I feel so bad for her losing her mom. Oh man, I want this, you know. At the end of the day, she put this pain and torture and this toxic dude back in her life. So it's just, I don't know, man. It's just,
is it supposed to be empowering? And you know, I know that we're just like, all just, you know, just dudes here or whatever. So talking about it, but like, I'm not seeing like people feeling any sort of way. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like the idol to who again? And when you just mix in these like really problematic sources where you're going to kind of like build up these anti-hero devices for our main protagonist, then they really got to be like, whoa, I can't believe she did that type of thing. Where I'm like on that level, but I'm like, but why did she invite Ted?
Why did she do all that?
Like, other than she's just like more hurt and still in a way being manipulated. And that's, I have no idea.
9, Chris, we can talk for hours about this show, about our movie we're making next year, coming to theaters near you, tip of the tongue. Shout out to that crazy idea. But gentlemen, this has been awesome. This has been fun. Like 9 said, the show might didn't necessarily stick the landing, but the conversation was just fun every single week, especially everyone in the comment section. Let the people know where they can find you. And what's next, man? I know you cover so much great content on your channel, man. What's the next bit of movie reviews, next TV show that we can look out for Taste Take?
Yeah, let me think. Well, first of all, shout out to you for having me on, and a huge shout out to 9. I love meeting new YouTubers, so that's always a freaking pleasure spending time. And, you know, if you guys are interested in my takes, you can find my stuff somewhere in the description here. I'm Chris Tate, representing Tate's Take. The next thing I'm checking, I got some more Netflix. I do a lot of Netflix reality stuff, so I'm always into the dating world, all that crazy stuff. I do a lot of documentary stuff. The next movie, what's the next movie that I'm watching? I know it's a big month. July is big. I got, you know, Barbie's coming. I'm gonna watch Mission Impossible. Of course, we got the Oppenheimer. I don't even know how to say it right, but there's a lot of stuff coming in July that I'm gonna have some opinions on. Last movie that I watched was The Blackening. I was not risking losing my black card not watching that black ass movie, so I did check that out. If you're black, just go support black art and go watch it. Interesting movie.
And shout out to Chris, man. Again, yes, this month is stacked, packed, and wrapped in a bow, and it's going to be a lot of great content on Taste Take. So you guys should subscribe, check them out. You won't be disappointed. I appreciate you, man, from crossing from Succession over to this is a show that I think cousin Greg would have wrote. The Idol. Shout out to cousin Greg. But we went from Succession to The Idol, and you have been tagging along with me the last few weeks, man. And I really appreciate you joining me to talk about this show, having some great commentary, some good laughs at the same time, and really looking forward to doing more of these in the future, my friend. But before then, why don't you let the people at home know where they can find you? You got a ton of stuff that you're going to be covering this week. So take it away.
Yeah, and I'm kind of ashamed of myself because I was trying to Tedros your channel this whole time and I failed. I was supposed to be the top dog of MovieFiles by the time this was over.
Nice.
But yeah, you can hit me up 900 yards on YouTube. I will be covering The Idol with the whole gang on Wednesday. Thursday we're doing Secret Invasion lives, and actually on Tuesday we will be interviewing an Ultimate Fighter. It's actually a bit different than what we have done in the past, but he has a fight on the Ultimate Fighter show, and we will be having someone on talking about their experience beating people up. So check that out on Tuesday if you're into that.
This is a panel I would love to reunite with sooner rather than later. And like Chris said, there's a lot of stuff coming out this month that we can probably find something to talk about. Thank y'all that stuck around for the almost 3-hour stream for this show and stuck around for the last 5 weeks talking about this show. Many more videos to come, and especially with these two great people. So with that being said, myself, Nine, and my man Chris, good night, my angels. And if you ever see a person with a rat tail, don't trust them. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Hell yeah.